One of the questions we get asked the very most is, do you have a therapist you can recommend for me? And while we wish that we knew of therapists in every single place, in every single part of the country, we don't. So what do we tell them instead, Mel?
We say check out BetterHelp because it's online, it's at a reasonable price, and you can be matched with a therapist within 24 hours. I've also used them and they have been great. And if you don't like your therapist, guess what? Click, and get a new one.
Absolutely. It's so hard when you have an in-person therapist, if you're not clicking with them, to cut them off and get a new one. So that's not an issue with BetterHelp. So we always tell people to try BetterHelp. And if you use our promo code, which is
trybetterhelp.com/WWDN,
you get 10% off your first month.
Go ahead and try it out. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN. And you know what? I'm a big fan of doing therapy where you don't have to wear pants, but nobody knows about it.
Are you wearing pants right now, Mel?
I'll see you later. Bye. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Today we have a special guest. We say that all the time, like for everybody. But today is actually going to be an interesting one, because this person happens to be sort of related to me.
I'm just really excited to ask how much this person does not like their in-laws because you are the in-law.
I am the in-laws. Yeah, we always, or usually before we start a podcast, we will say, is there anything you don't want us to talk about? And the number one by far answer that people say is, I don't want to talk about my in-laws because in-laws can be really hard. So if this person answers that they don't want to talk about their in-laws, then I will have to leave because this is my brother-in-law, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hello.
And we all know about Randy Randall, and I bet Mark has some really great Randy Randall stories. So please tell in-law stories.
Mark,
Yes,
are you okay to talk to your in-law about your widowhood story?
I am very
Okay.
comfortable. I think my in-laws have been fabulous. They are and have been, and yeah, so definitely I'm happy to talk about them.
That's a safe answer. Very good.
Now, I will just give a disclaimer before we start that, like, this does have the potential to be a little bit awkward for Mark because he is telling his widowhood story. He's telling his widowhood story to his sister-in-law. You know, he is married to my sister. And so, you know, we lost the same person, but different relationships. People are probably going to listen to this like my mom. And so I just want to like set the stage that whatever Mark has to say is totally, it's his story and it's totally fine. And it will be met with no, I will not be upset
And
about any of it.
if you all remember from last year in January when Anita's sister died, this is the widower attached to that sister.
Yeah.
So sorry that you're here, Mark, but also thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure. I hope it's been long enough that I don't spend the time weeping.
It's okay if you do. You won't be the first. Mark, I know you, Mel knows you, but why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, where you live, what you do, what you like to do?
Well, first I want to give a big shout out to all your listeners. Just with the challenge of last year losing Kaylin and all the contributions that came in on GoFundMe, I am very, very grateful. And I just want to say thank you to all of your listeners. It meant a lot to me. As far as me individually, I'm kind of a DIY guy. I like to do things myself. We're in the age of YouTube and watching videos on how to do things, and so I do all my mechanic work on my vehicles. I enjoy carpentry work. Spend a lot of time in my father-in-law's workshop. Haven't recently, but I need to spend more time down there. So I enjoy building things. I built beds for my kids and bookshelves and um, nightstands and TV stands and
No
so I enjoy
clocks,
that.
though.
Yeah, I was going to say,
No clocks.
you and Randy, if you got on board together with the clocks, it could be dangerous.
Don't, Mark.
I don't
Resist.
quite have his passion for TikTok and time. So, but yeah, so I'm also quite an outdoorsy guy. Um, I enjoy hunting, camping, fishing. Anita knows though I don't catch much, but I attempt it and I enjoy just getting out and spending time with family. You know, I took up cycling. I'm one of those mammals that the Brits talk about. I am a middle-aged man in Lycra. And so I've been cycling, and that's thanks in part to Anita's husband. He got me into cycling, and I started back in 2012. It's been a very beneficial way to cope with emotions and feelings with throughout Kaylin's medical history, and so it's been very helpful. I've logged over 17,000 miles since 2012,
Whoa.
so I've had a lot of fun on the road bike. Um, what else? You know, I enjoy skiing on my weekends with my son, and I'm just kind of an outdoor adventurous kind of guy. And like I said, a DIY guy. I do everything myself.
Okay, Mark. What do you actually do at your job? Like, I just know you work for a bank, but I don't actually know like what do you do?
Well, my kids know that I just stare at spreadsheets all day. So I got my master's in finance, and since then I've worked in the banking industry. And so my current position, I'm a senior financial analyst with a small entrepreneurial bank that just relocated here to Utah a few years ago. And so I spend time with the CFO running financial reports that help benefit the executives in the bank to help them manage their own lines of business. So they're my customers. I'm not dealing with customers coming in and requesting loans and making deposits. My customers are the bank officials.
So this explains why you need to get outdoors often because that
Mm.
sounds awful. Sorry, not
It
sorry.
is indeed. And my kids have mentioned, they said, Dad, why don't you get a fun job? Spend outside. So I haven't done that yet, but I do make up for it in my hobbies. I'm a beekeeper. I have chickens. I've got the proverbial urban farm, and so I just enjoy nature a lot.
Will you tell us how you met Kaylin? And Kaylin is Anita's oldest sister. And I know that, yeah, again, a year ago we talked a little bit about her, but will you help us to learn more about how you guys met?
Yeah. So uh, she and I were in a choir in college. Um, And I knew about her by just interacting a little bit at the at choir activities. I hadn't been in the choir very long. The semester had just started. She had been in the choir for the year and a half or so, and we had a mutual friend that actually worked at the same in the same location that Kaylin did. And what happened? So he had decided to play a prank on her and had told her that he and I had gone to a church fireside, church meeting, and we did a double date, but his date we picked her up on a road called State Street. So back then, State Street was the big place to go. Everybody drove back and forth on State Street if you wanted to hook up with girls. That's where you went. You drive your muscle car and you cruise State Street
You had a
looking for
Mazda,
people to
Mark. You
interact.
never had a muscle car. Come on.
No, it's true. I never had a muscle car. Hey, but I did have one with the sunroof. Come on, my 626 was sweet, right? My Mazda. Jason loved that one too as well. But anyway, so he had convinced her that we had picked up this girl off of State Street and took her right to a fireside, a church meeting, and and he basically guilted her into feeling bad that she didn't trust him that we actually did that. He said, "Well, hey, call Mark LeFevre. He will tell you." And so she called me up, unbeknownst to me. I had no idea what was going on and that he was pulling this prank on her. And so she asked, she said, "Hey, did you pick up a girl on State Street and take her to a fireside?" And so here's the backstory. My friend, this girl that he took, she lived in Provo and the fireside was up in Salt Lake. So we met her halfway. So we met her like 5500 South and State, right? And so we did pick her up off of State Street, right? Where that's where we met to ride to the fireside. And so Kaylin asked, "Hey, so did you pick up this girl?" And I said, "Yeah, we went to a fireside." So, and that's all I was being honest. I didn't know there was anything more to it. Well, a couple of days later go by, and okay, let me say that over. A couple of days later go by.
Nobody was going to notice.
Anyway, a few days later, I went into the store where she and Mark were working, and she hauled off and kicked me in the shins.
What?
And I'm like, why do? I don't know why are you so mad? And of course, then it's revealed to me that Mark had been tricking her and made her feel bad.
Wait.
So,
You have to say that this other person's name was also Mark, because your name is Mark too. So it's very confusing.
Anita, did you know about her kicking in
No.
the shins?
Did not.
We're learning stuff today.
so yeah, she kicked me in the shins, and it was quite comical. But it was then that I found out the whole reason why she was upset, and I explained I had nothing to do with the joke. I had no idea. A few days later, my buddy wanted to go out, go on a double date, and I thought, well, you know what? Hey, I'll ask Kaylin. So I called her up, and we went out. Our first date, we went ice skating, and then we went over to a friend's house and watched While You Were Sleeping.
Oh,
And so ever since, that was our big movie. We loved that movie and had fond memories of it. Quoted it frequently. But that was kind of our first introduction together on our first date.
Kaylin the kin shicker. Shin what?
Wow.
Shin
The
kicker?
shin kicker. Wow. That
Did
was
you get a
hard.
bruise from that?
No, she didn't kick me quite that hard.
Good thing it wasn't Anita kicking you.
Mm-hmm. It was a ceremonial kick more than anything.
Ceremonial kick. Although I knew she meant it though.
So you guys got married in 1997. Yes.
Following our first date, eventually we started carpooling together up to Weber State University, and that's when our relationship grew, because we had time in the car, had time talking. She learned that boys are crazy. Mark and I would be wrestling on the lawn. I mean, she would have to wait for us at the arcade there on campus, and go through the frustrations there. But that's where our relationship really grew. And I can still remember the first time I held her hand. We were driving down the hill right by Weber Canyon, and got up the courage to hold her hand, and we started dating at that point going forward. And we dated for a year before I actually proposed.
So you need to know that in my family, there's 4 girls and then 1 boy. So that's why Kaylin needed to know the boys were crazy, because we just had one little brother, and he was probably like, I don't know, just like 8, 10 when you guys got married. So he was still pretty young.
He was.
Okay, so you get married, you're living your happy life, and what goes down?
Hey guys, just checking in and want to say, if you are enjoying this podcast
And you want to see it keep going, maybe it's helped you through your widowhood journey, and you think that it might help others on their widowhood journey, you can support that cause by joining our Patreon.
some of the things that you get as a Patreon beneficiary are ad-free episodes, so you don't have to hear ads like this.
You also get exclusive content, and at a certain level, you might also get an exclusive t-shirt you can only get that place.
That is true. It's pretty cool. There are 4 different tiers available, so check it out. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
And as an extra bonus, very often you get your names read by one of my kids, and they will do a terrible job with the pronunciation. And that's like a bonus, I think.
I think it's kind of the best. I would much rather hear somebody butcher my name than say it correctly.
A child butcher it than an adult do it correctly. Yep. So go to patreon.com/WWDN to keep our podcast going and support the widowed cause.
Yes! Thanks, guys! Back to our regularly scheduled program.
Well, so things were going pretty good. Um, Marriages was challenging. The second year of our marriage, I ended up with a um, crazy brain deformity and ended up having brain surgery. And then and they had with the possibility of multiple sclerosis diagnosis. So that threw a wrench in the works. And then it wasn't until later on. So we were living great. I was going to school. She had decided to stop going to Weber for her education, but she wanted to focus on being a mom. So we ended up having three kids over a 6 year period, and things were great. We were enjoying life. Just I was moving up the ladder, and she was really enjoying being a mom full time. Um, and then in 2007, we ended up having our fourth kid. We were so excited, and we decided on this kid we didn't want to find out what gender he was and until she gave birth. And so Alex is born, and things are going well. A couple months in, Caitlin was very big on nursing. She wanted to make sure she was nursing all the kids. Felt there was a major health benefit to it, right? And so with Alex, second month in, she started getting mastitis, and it happened repeatedly. She'd get a mastitis, they would put her on antibiotics, and then it would occur again, and then she'd go on another round of antibiotics. Alex was born in March, and by June, by the end of June, she started getting a headache. And that headache continued to progress and did so until July. And it was in July, we rushed her to the hospital, took her in, trying to figure out what was going on. She had such severe pain, and they ran a bunch of tests to try and figure out what was going on. Well, by the time September rolls around, she's back in the hospital again because of all the severe brain pain. She's actually having neurological vision issues and challenges trying to see. And they finally did a CT scan, and they found that she had a blood clot on the right side, or excuse me, on the left side of her brain. So it was called a venous sinus thrombosis, and so the veins which the blood exits the brain from were blocked by this blood clot, which was causing a lot of pressure in her head and causing all the pain. So they put her on Coumadin immediately, the blood thinner, and sent us home. Things kind of improved a bit, but then they quickly didn't, and she was back in the hospital again. So in September, then they did a spinal tap. They saw that she had a high white blood cell count. That was happening as well as another symptom that had popped up at this time were cankers or ulcers in her mouth, and causing it was severe discomfort. In addition to the headache that she was having, she also then started having vision problems. And at that point, we started going to see a neurological ophthalmologist. And we did that because after discovering the blood clot, the venous sinus thrombosis, they knew that it was going to be a neurological issue. And after doing a spinal tap and they saw the pressures, they knew that was related to her vision problems. And so we went to this neurological ophthalmologist, and sure enough, they discovered that because of the pressure in her brain, it was putting a lot of pressure on her optic nerve, causing the vision troubles. It was a very difficult time. We just had Alex, a newborn. My dad spent a lot of time babysitting him. I know my mother-in-law was there as well as my mother taking care of him while Killian was down and out and visiting hospitals on a regular basis.
So, Mark, is it safe to say that it was just like she was having all of these things happening and there was just not a good reason for it? Like, it was just like, we don't know why this is happening,
Right.
and it's terrible, but we have no answers. Like, how did you finally get an answer? Like where did the answer come from, and how long did it take to get there?
Yeah, it took a while because by the time February rolled around, this is February of 2008. So she started experiencing symptoms in June of 2007, and so by February 2008, we knew that she had the blood clot in the venous sinus thrombosis. We knew that she had these weird fevers, And these we call them flare-ups. Anyway, there were a couple of tests that they did. We found out that she was called Leiden factor 5, which basically is a genetic condition that makes her more susceptible to clotting. But because of the size of the clot, they couldn't pin it all on Leiden factor 5. They're like, she shouldn't be clotting like this. By the time February hit, though, we went back in the hospital and found out that she had the blood clot on the left side of her brain had extended, but then they also found blood clots on the right side of her brain as well, in the same location. It was a venous sinus thrombosis on the right side, as well as they identified a blood clot in her jugular vein. In addition to that, they also found an aneurysm in her brain. They were concerned about this aneurysm and wondered if wanted to do surgery. It wasn't until November of 2008 that the doctors actually gave her a diagnosis of Behçet syndrome. It's an autoimmune disease that is named after a Turkish doctor because it's primarily found around the Mediterranean,
Which
and
we are not.
which we are not. There's no ancestry of Mediterranean blood in our DNA, and so the doctors were all baffled and confused by why she had this. It was a very challenging time because it took, like I said, until November of 2008 for us to be able to find out and have a diagnosis on it.
So that's like 18 months basically of just being so sick and not having any reason for it.
Of not having any understanding, yeah, of what was causing it. And at that point, we were following doctor's orders. They put her on heavy doses of prednisone and chemotherapy in order to kill off her immune system so it would stop attacking her. For the first 4 years, we were heavily following doctor's orders. They didn't have any cures. Their method of caring for her was simply to kill off the immune system. Over the years, we found out that with the chemo usage, she actually went into early menopause as a result. Doctors believe too that her situation had started before our last child. She actually had 3 miscarriages before our last kid, and so the whole time it was a pretty big struggle. So over time, we did follow doctor's orders, but there was a period where Kaylin just was tired of visiting the hospitals and doing what the doctor said. So she then went on a course of alternate medicine, and she spent an awful lot of time finding out what to do that could possibly heal her. And it went from different diets. She got heavy into intermittent fasting, was a big part of her life. She did a lot of tapping was part of her life in order to deal with the emotions and the challenges that she faced. And then she cut out sugar completely. She strived to exercise regularly, and for a very long time, she did a good job staving off the majority of the symptoms. But unfortunately, in the last 3 years of her life, things got worse. In March of 2021, she began coughing up blood. We rushed her to the hospital, and at that point, the doctors did an exam, found that she had 2 massive aneurysms in her pulmonary artery in her right lung, and they life flighted her to another hospital. And I drove there and I waited in the parking lot for 4 hours before I knew of anything of what had happened. They took her right into surgery. They coiled both aneurysms to prevent them from rupturing. And it took until 10 o'clock that night for me to finally be able to see her. The challenge is there. And by June, with that surgery, one of the coils had uncoiled and started punctured through her lung and started traveling up her trachea, at which point the doctors were quite alarmed because this is not a typical thing for coils to do with the aneurysms. But because of the heavy prednisone that she was on and the autoimmune disease, it kind of pointed to those being the main cause of why the coil had uncoiled. So they did in September. Then they did a lobectomy and removed her right upper lobe of her right lung, and began a new phase of her treatment. She spent an awful lot of time trying to regain lung function and health by walking on a regular basis, uh, and was trying to be as positive as possible, all the while dealing with the additional medications that they had prescribed her at that time.
How was this for you to go through with her? Because that's terrifying. You're also supporting a family, trying to be there for Kaylin. She's going through this thing that nobody knows what's going on, and it seems to just be progressively worse. How do you do that? And also, how was that for the kids? That's also terrifying watching their mom go through those things. Anita, I hear we have a store.
Oh, we sure do. We've actually had it for quite a while. It's called the Snarky Grief Shop, and it's where you will find all of our best grief merch. That is, yes, a little snarky. For instance, it's where you will find the official widow card that you can pull and use at your convenience.
You can put it in your wallet, and anytime you need to use it, pull it out, play the widow card.
Yeah, we have glow-in-the-dark stickers. We have shirts that say, "Be nice, my husband is dead." We also have the ones that are not quite as jarring, so that you can wear them out in public and not feel weird. But sometimes you need that shirt.
I wear my "Be Nice, My Husband is Dead" to bed because I'm a little scared to go in public with it. But you've worn it on airplanes before with your kids.
Yeah, every time we go to the airport, I wear that shirt because I'm just like, listen, I got to get all these kids through security. Just be nice to me. Thank you so much. And it's worked for the most part.
Some of the less snarky grief shirts are podcast shirts or Widow Wives Club. We also have Resilient AF, right, Anita? What else we got in there?
Yeah, which we're telling everybody who cares, like Mel's mom, that means American fork, because she can't know what it really means, guys.
Yeah.
Stickers and mugs and notebooks and just cool stuff that you can use to express your snarky grief. You'll find it by going to our website, shop.widowwedonow.com. There's a lot of W's in there, so just make sure that you've counted them and there's the right number.
We will link to that in the show notes, and it's also in our app, which you can get from the App Store. Can people get it from our regular website too?
Yes, if you go to widowwedonow.com, there's a link for the shop in there too.
Great. If you'd like to show your snark or have something a little more subtle, go ahead and check that out. Again, that's
shop.widowwedonow.com.
Yeah, that was very difficult. Family has been a big help. My family, my in-laws, the support that we were receiving there, especially when taking care of the kids while I was at work, different activities. The hard part with the kids, Kaylin was frequently in the hospital. It seemed over Christmas, New Year's, April, and Easter time. It was unusual that those were the main holidays that she would end up in the hospital for long periods.
She just didn't want to be a mom. She was like, I don't want to have to do all this. I'm checking into the hospital.
You know what's interesting though is also during this time, Anita's husband dies and you helped her take some of her kids to go fishing and stuff like that. I remember kind of peripherally knowing about this, and it's like, there's a lot going on here. And also this guy is helping Anita, who really needs it, and it's helping the kids. Did that help you in a way, like helping Anita's kids to cope with what your life was?
It definitely did. Yeah, getting out in nature, just spending time away from the and thinking of someone else, just enjoying the activities with the kids. That really did help a lot, and it was very therapeutic. Yeah.
Do you feel like through all of this, it just became? Did it ever just feel quote unquote normal? Like it just was so the biggest part of your life, not the biggest part of your life, but such a baseline to your life that it just kind of became like what life was, and it wasn't unusual for Kaylin to be having a flare up, or like it just became part of your everyday life.
It did. And the evidence of it was in our hospital visits. I became so comfortable in the hospital. I would walk around, I would get what I need. I got what Kaylin needed. If she needed more blankets, I went and got it. I wasn't bothering for nurses, and if she needed something, I would speak up to the doctors and the nurses and make sure that she was being taken care of. And it just became a second nature, to a second world. And it's interesting, every time we entered the hospital, it's like we became a little bit different. I know, Anita, you realize I'm not that funny outside of the hospital, but we'd get in the hospital and Kaylin and I would joke with the staff. We were laughing frequently. We would play off of one another, telling jokes and cracking up with the doctors, and making it as a pleasant an experience as possible. Even when you're sitting there and they think you have meningitis. If you go into a hospital ER, they think you have meningitis. They immediately just sequester you in a room all by yourself, and it can be a little unnerving. But for us, we were like, oh, okay, they think we have meningitis again, because that was part of the problem with their in her brain.
I love how you're saying we have meningitis. It's our meningitis.
Well, and that just points to the fact that I was experiencing it too, and we were both going through this major struggle, and that's one of my biggest regrets with just regarding the kids. It was difficult, and I'm looking back, there's things I could have done better to help them through it. And in talking to them now, they don't realize a lot of the things that were going on with Kaylin were related to her autoimmune disease. Like, we'd go backpacking, and we'd go and we had a plan to stay 3 nights, and we'd go backpacking. The first night she'd end up getting a flare up, and we would pack up the next day and hike on out. And the kids didn't understand or realize that it was because mom was sick, and we had to leave because she was in the middle of having a major flare up. And so that was one area that I think I could have done a better job at helping the kids through the challenges. And so I'm striving to do better now when communicating with them about their feelings as they cope with her loss. Um, and it's brought us closer together, certainly, as a result. But I would recommend, if with anyone going through these challenges, as hard as it is, when you're so close to the trees you can't see the forest, there is still a need to be able to focus on and help others that are around that are dealing with it as well, because we were all going through it together. We all struggled in our own ways.
So, Mark, I'm curious about how it affected your relationship to have her sick all of the time. Like that would be really hard.
You had a guest on that his wife had cancer, and they actually had end up having to separate for a time because of the emotion that was the emotion of it all. And it certainly was emotional. It was very difficult. Kaylin was on heavy doses of prednisone. The roid rage is real. It affected her emotionally. It brought about a lot more anxiety than she ever had before. Um, and it made it very difficult for her to be able to manage her own fears and phobias while dealing with the health issues, and then having us, our marriage, and with our kids too. And so it was very difficult. It was very trying. There were times when she just would push me away emotionally, and it was a struggle to be able to continue to provide and care for, despite the how I was feeling personally about it. Um, and that's another big thing that I know that looking back, I could have done a better job at um, recognizing how she was feeling, because it wasn't until 2 weeks before she died that I realized that she was manifesting the feelings that she felt about herself and placing them on me. So, um, as she struggled, she thought, well, my life's not worth it. Mark must feel the same way. And she would then treat me based on how she was feeling about that. If I certainly felt that she was, if um, if she was worthless, or, always sick and it wasn't worth my time, then that's how she would react back to me. And so it was extremely challenging to be able to manage that. And like I said, it wasn't until 2 weeks before her death that I recognized and realized what she had been doing the entire 17 years, and recognizing that it was a lot of the the medications that she was on that was enhancing those emotions. She hated it when I said that. I would tell her, I'm like, sometimes she would get extremely irate. And that's very uncharacteristic for Kaylin. She was very mild mannered, very, very calm. We
I don't
really didn't
know.
fight.
She got mad at me a lot as a kid.
You did hide things in your backpack and you had a cup of spit
Yeah.
and an area. So it might be you, Anita.
Kaylin was the one who kicked me out of our room for my grossness and made me live in the area. So that was the person I was sharing the room with, and she could take it no longer. But the thing that bothered her the very, 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 very most was that in the bathroom we shared, when I would like wash my face, I thought of like a Neutrogena commercial, where they like splash the water on their face and it goes everywhere. And then I wouldn't wipe it up. And she was like so mad. She was like, "Can you just wipe up the water?" And I was like, "I don't know what your problem is. It's just water." Anyway, sorry, Mark. Continue.
It was difficult. There was a lot of challenges that we faced in our marriage as a result. But one thing that Kaylin did that I admire so much, and I'm so grateful for her example, despite all of the challenges that she faced and the fear, all the medical problems, all the medications that she was on, she kept her faith. Um, she had one friend that came to her, and this was halfway through our journey, and just exclaimed, "I don't know how you're doing this. How do you not blame God? And you're just not a normal person." And and that's how Kaylin was. She turned to God in her trial. She spent her days reading scriptures, listening to religious podcasts. She spent time teaching the kids. She loved to teach. At one point, she had a passion. She desired to learn biblical Hebrew. And it's cool how it all happened. And it was only through divine intervention how it all went down. But she actually found a gal that had majored in Hebrew in college and got her to teach a class. And as a result, they ended up gathering a bunch of other people together in this class and they learned Hebrew together. She spent 8 years doing that. And my kids have fond memories, or not so fond memories, of when Kaylin took us through
They
um,
have memories.
Passover. She took us through a Passover with all the bitter herbs and everything, and it was comical. And there's a point where they hide a loaf of bread, and the kids are supposed to go find it, and the kids did not want to go find it. Well, and it turned out that Kaylin forgot where she had hidden it, so it was like months later
Oh
before
no.
the bread was even found, and it was not a good state. But she just had such a passion for the scriptures and turning to the Lord, and she inquired about everything. Through her journey, she was trying to find a way to heal herself, and she included the Lord in that in all things, and it was a major part of her experience. And the kids they used to get really annoyed. She would go out and sit in the kitchen and read and the scriptures, and they just thought that she was being obnoxious and was like trying to throw it in their face and make them feel guilty for not reading themselves. But really, she couldn't see. Her vision was so bad that she struggled with light, and that was the best place in the house where there was more natural light coming in that she could actually see. So there was a reason before it, but the kids didn't understand that.
At the funeral, I know we haven't gotten to the point in the story where she has died, but I have to, because you brought up this topic, I have to say that one of my, I guess, I don't know, favorite parts of the funeral was when the kids got up. I mean, and they're kids, but they're not like 5 years old, right? Like
Yeah.
they're, I think, what, three are in college at this point, and then there's one in high school. And it was Kaylin's wish that her kids got up to share their testimony. And my favorite was one of your kids that got up and said, "I have a testimony that my mom had a testimony when my mom was awesome." I was like, I understand what's happening here. So that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, and my mom also knows Kaylin and went to church with her. And so I know that I knew it was a big part of Kaylin's life because of what I would hear from my mom. So I wanted to ask also, and you just referenced it, Caitlin was dealing with a lot of things. You also mentioned that it might have been hard for the kids to understand what was going on at the time or the reasons why she was doing certain things. And, she's trying to survive, find hope, and trying to live. She's also a mom. And I know that some having an unwell mom is hard for kids. I know it's different relationship with every child, but how was her relationship with her kids being sick and also focusing on those, a lot of things just so she could keep going? Is that pretty complex or how was that?
It is to a degree, but she did her very best. She loves her kids so much. And she did her best to spend time with them. Oftentimes, reading scriptures to them and praying was a big focus of hers. She was very intentional in her activities with them. One thing that we did before, well, we knew the kids as the kids got older. We knew we weren't going to uh, be able to spend a lot of time with them as they, got older and into adulthood. So Kaylin had come up with the idea um, to go on yearly vacations, big road trips. And the road trip was we would drive. She planned it all out. She spent half a year planning it out, and it was basically we would jump in the car and we would drive to an LDS temple, and then we would jump out, take pictures, 10 minutes at most. The kids would be angry and upset about it and annoyed. And then we'd jump in the car and we'd head to the next one. I can't tell you how many hours on the road we spent just driving and taking pictures and then getting back in the car and driving more. And but she loved it. That was her passion, and the kids knew it. We spent a lot of time in the car and getting to know each other, having fun with one another, trying to make things as normal as possible. One trip, we went to Texas to visit sister-in-law, Anita's sister down in Austin. And we were driving, and because of the medications Kaylin was on, she actually got sunburned severely through the window of the car. And so there she is with the big red hat, trying to keep the sun off her, but she never complained about it and just made sure that she did her best to make it a fun experience for the kids. So I mean, she was very intentional in her interactions with her kids.
Did the kids, were they ever like, please, can we not go to see any more temples? Please, can we just go to Disneyland?
Knott's Berry Farms.
Did they ask?
There was a point that happened, but since she's passed, the kids have all said, "Hey, we need to go. We need to resume Mom's legacy and keep going, taking pictures, and
Aw.
keep on these road trips, taking pictures of temples." So that's we've tried to do that.
So, Mark, Kaylin, you talked about she'd had this surgery, she had her lung removed, she was having all these complications, and she just was not doing well. Were you anticipating that she was going to die when she did, or did it still come as a shock, even though you'd been through this many years of terrible health?
Well, I mean, uh, there were multiple times over the course of the last 17 years that I had thought about her funeral, that had crossed my mind. I was very worried about life insurance policies and such, and it was a very stressful situation with work and having to deal with all the medical bills. So, but there were periods when I was very worried. This last time, um, what really kind of set it off for me was, I mean, it just felt different. I was shocked, but not shocked, just because of everything that was leading up to it. So what had happened in September, or excuse me, in July of 2023, her flare up started, and she was just bleeding in her right lung all over. It was a major autoimmune flare up. Doctors put her on heavy doses of prednisone and then another round of chemo for 6 months. And so she just didn't feel very well. So when December rolled around, she was nearly to the end of her chemo treatment. She still wasn't feeling well, and the hard thing is looking back, I didn't realize the decline. I didn't realize how much she had declined. But by December, she was not doing so well. And the first part of January, she started coughing up blood, which we were all very concerned. So we rushed back into the hospital, um, and they did a bunch of testing. They found that the second coil that remained had it began to uncoil itself and was uncoiling into the bottom of her right lung, which causing a lot of tissue damage, which was the cause of the bleeding. And the problem that brought was she was on heavy prednisone and the chemo, and the doctors couldn't go in and do emergency surgery. They were planning to just remove the rest of her right lung, but they were concerned because of the heavy doses of prednisone she was on that the healing wouldn't take place appropriately and they would never get her off the ventilator. And so what ended up happening after she spent a week in the hospital in January. In the hospital, there were multiple procedures that were taking place. She was intubated and put under anesthesia or under sedation, and she had no idea how severe the situation had developed. And there was one procedure that the doctor said, this is our last hope to stop the bleeding that's happening in her right lung before we have to just take her into emergency surgery, which they didn't want to do. And when Kaylin woke up, her mom and I explained the situation. And at that point, she was starting to understand how serious her health condition was. The doctors then stated that they set a date for March 7th, that they were then going to have surgery to remove the rest of her right lung. All the while, they were going to be tapering her off the medications so that she could be able to heal from it. And during that time, she would cough up blood about every 2 to 3 days. And the kids, it was a nerve-wracking time, very stressful time. Communication back and forth with doctors, it was a struggle. But on the day that she passed away, she was home with her sister. The rest of us were all at church, and so Kaylin and her sister had a great visit and conversation together, and she started coughing up blood. Her sister was shocked and surprised. She didn't because this is the first time she'd witnessed the event. And then shortly after, Kaylin noticed something had changed, and she said, "Oh boy!" And then she went unconscious, and her sister had called the ambulance. I was at church. The ambulance, when they got here, they began working on Kaylin after Shauna had tried desperately to do CPR under the directions of the 911 operator. But one of the medics called me in church, and I ignored it because it was an unknown number. And then immediately following, after I hung up, Shauna's number came up, her sister's phone number came up, and I just thought, this is not good. So I rushed out of the meeting, talked to the ambulance, the EMT, and then rushed home, where they were continually trying to work on her and bring her back. Eventually they rushed her off to the hospital. The worst part of it was gathering all the kids. It was a challenge. I am so thankful that Shauna was here, though, and because if she wasn't, my son would have come home after church and had found her. He was always the first one home. But the worst part was sitting in the hospital. They escorted us. They put us into the exact same room that Jason had been in, or excuse me, that Anita was in, that when they notified us that Jason had passed. Terrible memories of that room. It was awful waiting. The doctor came in and notified us that they were not able to get a pulse without doing compressions. And I just told him at that point, I said, she doesn't want this. She doesn't want to just stop. And he goes, well, let's just make that decision back here. I thought, no, I don't want to go back there. Right. And so he ushered me and my mother-in-law back to the room where they had Kaylin and they were working on her. And I'll never forget the image. Can't get it out of my head. But at that point, I just said, please just stop compressions. And, they go through the whole countdown. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're calling it time of death, 12:54 p.m. And it was so surreal, very surreal. And and then I went back and had to notify the family and the kids in that same dumb room, Anita, that same dumb room. And then thus began my widowerhood. Um, the last year has been a challenge. It's been very difficult. My nights have been the worst. Just falling asleep at night without her next to me, that's been a struggle. And it's been a challenge all year. Through it all, I have um, reflected upon her life and the example that she set for me, with her faithfulness and her desire to have hope and to stay alive. And I just look at her with so much respect and love. And I'm grateful for I'm grateful for her example. And it has really truly helped me to be able to deal with her passing, as I'm striving to find find hope now, and gaining a better relationship with God.
So we talked about this again last year after this happened, and the day that Kaylin died, I ended up getting home right when the ambulance and I think you were already in the house, Mark, and Anita was not
Yeah.
there. And I remember going up there and then watching them bring her out, and I just saw Shauna, and then I saw you after that, and you were so calm that I wondered if you were in shock or if you were so used to these kinds of events that your nervous system was just regulated to be calm. You seemed like the regular Mark, just like you're holding it together. I don't know if you even remember seeing me. We talked on your porch, but
Oh, I did. I remember giving you a big hug.
yeah, can you tell us what you were feeling? Did you think that was the end?
It certainly was surreal. No, I did at that point. I really feel like she passed away at home. I don't think they were never able to revive her. They could, and like I said, they never got a pulse afterwards that was sustainable, without doing chest compressions. It's my first thought when I came in. Shauna was beside herself. It was devastating to her, and my focus was to help her, try to comfort her. I tell you, there truly was divine intervention in how I was feeling at that moment, and in order to be able to stay in control, communicate with the EMTs, talk to them about her condition, and letting them know about the coils in her chest, and and truly, I felt there was a bit of peace and comfort that was there, unusually. Um, Although shock was definitely a part of it as well, but um, truly, I felt that there was some divine intervention there, helping me to deal with everything that was going on in that moment. Because then once they rushed her off the hospital, then all the kids started coming home, and they they had their own stories to tell, and then I had my focus had to turn to them to try to help them through this.
That makes sense because it seemed like you had some sort of peace and calm that was different than the situation that had just happened.
Okay, Mark. So now you're a widower. You are trying to figure out your life. And I just want to know if buying a giant truck helped.
You bought a giant truck? Yes.
Yes, yes, it did. It's terrible. Caitlin, there were a couple of times she would tell me, "I'm your truck," meaning all my money was going into her and I couldn't afford to buy a truck, right? And every guy wants a truck, right? What guy doesn't want to have a big truck? It just happened to be bigger than I anticipated. But I've got some good use out of it. I've taken your kids out. We've spent some good time, and I expect to do more of it. But that's part of the adventurous part of me, that I need to be able to get out into the woods, into the wilderness. It was just last year I took the dumb thing on a big elk hunt, And it's very therapeutic to be out and about in the mountains hiking around, even though I didn't catch anything. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and yes, it was therapeutic, and I'm grateful for the trek.
So it's funny that Mark is saying he didn't catch anything. And the reason he's saying that is because I always say that to him, which shows that I am not a hunter because I'm like, hey, did you catch anything? And he's like, you don't really catch things when you're hunting. Like you shoot them and kill them. Anyway, so it's kind of become a joke that Mark can't catch anything.
One of the things that everybody says after going through the death of their person is that you can't conceptualize how horrifying and horrible it is until you go through it. Like you can try and it's like, okay, this person lost their husband. Like Anita lost Jason and that's so hard and we're going to do all we can to help. But it's like your body's not excavated enough in the heart or something to feel the depths of some of that pain. Did you have a kinship with Anita after that, or some realizations as you were going through what you were experiencing? Did that help you kind of understand Anita a little bit more?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I truly have empathy, have a better understanding of what Nita went through. Although the circumstances were different. I mean, Jason died suddenly. He didn't have this long, drawn out sickness that they had to deal with, but it's still devastating nonetheless. And even though I had years of near misses, close calls, issues and challenges with hospitalizations, it still didn't fully prepare me for the moment. You know, Caitlin always claimed that she was going to outlive me, and, and I'm like, okay, honey, you keep thinking that. You know, she wanted to be like her great grandma.
Who lived to be 105.
Yeah, that was her goal, and so yeah, you're never fully prepared for it, and when it does happen, it does definitely brings more understanding to what others go through, and specifically understanding Anita and the challenges she went through, and they're both different, but they're both equally tragic and challenging. I love Anita a lot more than I did then, if I could say it quite like that, quite like that. Anita has been very beneficial. I wear my "Be Kind to Me, My Wife is Dead" shirt. Try and find some comfort and solace in comedy, and I appreciate her in helping me out in moments of trial. Even before Kaylin had passed, there were several times when I had communicated with Anita that she was helping me through things, and so I appreciate her very much. But yeah, it definitely opens your eyes to what others go through and allows you to be more sympathetic, or in this case, empathetic
Yeah.
of their situation and what they've gone through.
Anita, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
How has it been for you watching Mark go through this? And you've already been down the path of similar things, but also, as we know, because we talked to 8 bajillion people, sometimes you still don't know what to say.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It doesn't just because you've gone through it doesn't mean that you are smart. Like it's still hard to know what another person needs. And we talked about this on the podcast though, how it was just so weird that it just felt very comfortable to like help Mark and to be in that kind of death space. And probably it's just because we talk to people about this all the time and like a lot of things Mark's going through, I'm just like, yep, that sounds right, and that sounds right, and I'm so sorry, and I wish I could make it better. And to hear Mark talk about some of his regrets, sometimes I just want to punch him in the face. Because I think all of us watching Mark care for Kaylin through all of that years, it's like I don't think anybody could have done that better. Like of course there are things that you look back and you think, oh, I wish I would have done that differently. But it's just like, oh, please do not beat yourself up about any of that because like you did such a good job of just doing whatever you could to help her in which, whatever way you could. And it wasn't always perfect, of course, because there wasn't a good answer to any of it. So I don't know. That didn't
I
answer
think
your question.
it did, sort
Okay,
of.
good.
I think it's interesting too because also my mom became widowed. I was widowed anyway, and Mark, you and Alex would mow our lawn. I mean, and you just did it, and you were so nice always. And I just remember thinking, I know of some of what Kaylin is dealing with, because what Anita would say from time to time, or what my mom would say, and I know that that's like not even scratching the surface. And then here's Mark out there, and you always see him just going to help people. And when we made our skate ramp at the very end, Mark, you came and helped us along with Randy Randall. And so I'm so impressed that you were dealing with what you were dealing with, and you were still helping others, and you were helping Kaylin. And we just think that you're the best. So if you ever want to beat yourself up, just don't. Just beat up Anita.
We have a nickname for Mark in our family. Like Jason always used to call him Ned Flanders
Oh,
because he's like the nicest guy. And we took a poll, like all of my siblings and their spouses, and we all decided, like all of us, 100% agreement that Mark is the nicest of all of us. So
obviously.
yeah, there's no question.
Do you know of any widowers around your age that you've been able to connect with? Or do you mostly connect with your neighbors and family?
And elk.
Neighbors and family mostly. I haven't interacted with anybody that's in my situation or any women that have gone through it. I
Do
haven't,
you,
not currently.
do you want to? I've always been like, do you want to be in the Widow Wives Club? Do you want to be in like the widows group? And I never know, like, I don't want to push that on people either. So do
Well, I
you want
missed out
to?
on that pajama party you had not long ago.
Wait, I didn't get invited to that. Rude.
What are you talking? Did we have a
Oh,
pajama party?
I
maybe.
guess it wasn't a pajama party.
No. Oh, the Galentines.
That's what it was. Yeah,
Yes, yeah. There were no pajamas involved. Yeah. Um, can I ask you about dating, Mark? Is that allowed?
it is allowed. Yeah.
Okay. So you tell us about that. Tell us about what you've done and your motivations and how it's gone.
My motivations.
Yeah.
Well, it you know,
Money,
um,
obviously.
I don't think so.
dating, it's been interesting. I've gone out with two women, several dates. I went out this last Monday on President's Day, went skiing with one gal and had a lot of fun. It's unusual because there's just a lot of emotions involved. I think the first woman I went out with, I got the vibe. It was like in August, so not too long after. What was that? 5, 6 months, and 7 months, I guess. And I got the feeling that it was too. She felt it was too soon for me, kind of thing. And my daughter informed me that as well. She's like, "Dad, it's too soon. You're not ready. You're not ready to go on the date." And but for me, I mean, so far it's been interesting. I really feel like people have a great capacity to love. Going through what I went through, it was very challenging. My focus was on Kaylin, especially the last 3 years were the most difficult when you're talking about a marriage relationship to be able to feel loved and one of you is sick and all the focus goes into that individual. And so it's hard to be even concerned when you're worried about life or death situations to be even thinking about any kind of love, or reciprocating any of those feelings. And so, definitely I want to have a relationship with someone. Um, I look forward to that opportunity, and it does present a lot of different emotions as well that I'm going to have to navigate. The two women that I went out with, I was informed by my mother-in-law. I love her. With the first gal I went out, I had to go tell her. I said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to go on this date. I wanted you to be aware. I need to be open and upfront so you're aware of what's going on." Randy didn't care. He's like, "Oh, whatever, go have fun." But I wanted to make sure Jane knew how I felt and that I needed to communicate with her. And her advice was this: don't talk about Kaylin the entire time.
That's wise.
Don't spend your time talking to her. And with the two women that I've gone out with, I've been open with them. I haven't used them as my therapist. I don't talk about my trauma with them, type thing. If they have questions, I answer them. I don't withhold anything, like I've mentioned Kaylin before and things we've done or whatnot, but I don't focus on my experiences with her and compare them to these other women. I don't do that because no one can replace Kaylin. Anyone that I meet, it's going to be a different relationship, and um, and that's okay. That's okay. But anyway, it's been interesting.
I just want you to know that you should be thankful for me because I had some part in saying, hey, this is going to happen at some point in time and you got to be cool with it. Like, I feel like I prepared people, even though I've never gone on a date. It's like, this is going to happen, mom, and it's going to be okay. So you're welcome.
Yeah, you have done very well, Anita, in helping me to navigate that. I took a lot of your advice, especially during funeral preparations and interacting with the public and people that were wanting to express appreciation or condolences, and so I have taken a lot of your advice. In fact, I'm going to need your advice on a headstone here shortly as well.
Oh, you got
Yeah,
5 years, man. You can
Five to
go as long
six.
as you want.
the 5 years. But and Anita, you got this. Dating's not that scary. It's fun. It's still
Ugh,
fun. It's a little
nope.
weird, a little
Nope.
awkward, but
That's
it's
a
still fun.
perfect segue into what I was wanting to ask. So, at one point, I was like, Anita, I think what we should do is we should see if somebody will date you, and then I'll go along and film just for fun. You don't have to even like them, but just like go do it. And she wasn't super keen on the idea, but we do have a lot of friends that are widows and non-widows too. Maybe you could go and take Anita's place and be the one that goes on the dates. What do you think about that?
Yeah, do you want us to set you up, Mark, with our widow friends?
You know, the one thing about this whole dating thing, I have not joined any dating websites. I'm not totally interested in that, but I definitely want to make it more organic. I'm from the 80s. I'm from the time period when you just go up to someone and ask them out.
And kick him in the
Now
shins.
I'm being told I can't do that at the gym and I can't do that here and there. And I even asked, there was one gal, and I wasn't flirting with her. There was a gal that I did when I did Lodija last year.
Which is a bike race.
So yeah, the big bike race, 200 miles. And I actually I got behind her. He helped me when I was losing energy. I was about to bonk, and so I got behind her and drafted off of her for about 3 miles. And then I pulled up beside her and I just started to talk. I'm like, hey, thank you for pulling me along. I appreciate it. My name's Mark. And she goes, oh, geez. I'm like, I'm just saying hi and thanking you for letting me draft up here for a bit. And I'm like, okay, so this is just a different world of dating than am used to. However,
That's
I'm
funny.
still that old 80s guy, and I want it to happen organically, and I'm not afraid to go ask someone out.
Okay, so Mark, how old are you?
I am 50.
Mark is 50. Mark has 4 kids. Mark has a truck. So if you're interested in Mark, email us at widowwedonow@gmail.com.
We're gonna start like a matchmaking agency for Mark.
He lives in Utah.
And he likes to ski.
He likes to ski. And Mark is LDS. So if that's a deal breaker, go away.
Go away.
I got a great dad bod too.
He's good at mowing the lawn too. I can attest to that.
Yeah. It's great, great guy. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. I know I don't talk about it much, and I appreciate the opportunity to do so. I hope that I made sense. There's so much of the history with her medical condition that um, it's difficult. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. Like I said, I don't talk much about it, and grateful for the opportunity. And hey, I'm even looking forward to see what kind of messages come back for me.
All right, guys, it's
Hey.
on. widowwedonow@gmail.com.
We have an important question that we need to ask you before we leave, Mark, and that is, what is your favorite cheese?
I like a good blue cheese.
Oh, some
Mm,
stanky.
Blue cheese, and
yes.
put that on a great oh my goodness. Why am I forgetting the sandwich?
Because you have
A
widow brain.
sandwich
I
with
got
blue
widower
cheese?
brain, and that is a true thing.
Yeah.
I have totally had widower brain this entire year. It's been horrific.
Yep.
But
Mhm.
yeah, I love me a good blue cheese.
Okay, we
They
accept
edit
that
out the
answer.
part where I don't know remember the sandwich.
Oh no, that's definitely going in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed Mark's story. If you'd like to keep the podcast going, will you check out our Patreon? It's patreon.com/WWDN.
If you'd like to buy us tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com/widowwedonoww. And if you would like to pass a message along to Mark, email us.
And bribe us with a taco.
Oh,
Isn't that a good
yeah.
idea? Yeah.
If you would like to get on Mark's good side, you could send us extra tacos to influence us to pass along your message sooner. Remember, email us at widowwedonow@gmail.com.
And we also always like a nice rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Mark.
We're just two young widows and one brave widower who was able to talk about his in-laws. And we're all just trying to figure out widow,
We
do.
now. Don't kick Mark in the shins if you go on a date with him. The end.
Mel,
Yeah,
we have a major announcement to make.
go for it.
Did you know that right now all plans on Mint Mobile are what?
$15 a month.
Okay, that's truly ridiculous. Do you know how much regular cell phones are?
Yep.
$1 bazillion a month. 15 is less than that.
New customers get 3 months of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month if you sign up right now. And guess what? I use it. I love it. I've used it all over the country, all over the world, and it's great. And if you're wondering about phones, they have those available as well, or you can just port your own number and your current phone over to Mint Mobile. They make it so easy.
So if people are interested in trying out Mint Mobile, how can they go about doing that?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. And you know what's interesting? When my dad died, we actually put his phone on a Mint Mobile plan because it kept his number going, but it was $15 a month. So there you go. And there's different storage plans, but you might as well just get the unlimited because it's $15 a month.
Absolutely. All right, go try it today.
That's trymintmobile.com/WWDN.